welcome to Every Day is a New Day.
Kim O'Neill from KimO'NeillCoaching.com.
We are live. Hello, everyone. Okay, real quick, I just want to acknowledge that the interview you're about to see is very much, even though it's the Every Day is a New Day show and I'm your host, Kim O'Neill, this episode is almost like a free training session, and kind of like the Jodi show with Jodi Pliszka. She's an amazing, oh my gosh, she had so much to share. And sometimes when that happens with my guests, I am also just like so in the zone. I'm like, okay, I just want to keep hearing more. Let me hear more. Let me hear more. Let me hear more. And what's the point of having a guest if I don't let them share, right? So I saw total value in this interview and I allowed her to just keep sharing. So you don't get a lot of me until closer to the end of the show. And I just want to acknowledge that and address it now. Yep, this show is like that. You are going to love it. And I would love to hear your comments afterwards. You're also going to notice that my lighting gets pretty dim. So this is what I look like now. And anyway, it's kind of funny, I thought. Okay, I hope you have a fantastic day and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Every Day is a New Day. I'm your host, Kim O'Neill, and this is the inspirational interview show about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. And I'm so excited because over the next hour, we're going to be speaking with Jodi Pliszka, who you can see in front of you right now. And this feels so timely. I'm so excited to have her here. Let me read to you a little bit about her. So Jodi earned her master's degree and Ph.D. ABD studying cognitive neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and human behavior. Jodi founded the Retrain Your Brain to Master It All program, a powerful framework for inspiring your ultimate level of creativity, inspiration, productivity, leadership, and innovation. She is the president CEO of the Headline It No Sweat Comfort Hat Helmet Liner Company. She was a top finalist on ABC'S American Inventor TV show, featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, Lifetime TV's Health Corner. I love that. I love Lifetime. And media outlets globally. She is the recipient of the Enterprising Woman of the Year Award, and she is the proud mom to Jess, who just graduated with a pre-med. Okay, she's the proud mom to Jess, who graduated pre-med Dean's List from Carroll University in May of 2018. So with that said, hello and welcome, Jodi.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I'm so glad. So I know I just read your bio, but I always love to ask my guests to expand on that and tell us more in their own words who they are and what they do. So please go ahead and share, if you have anything extra to add to your bio.
Oh, sure. The one part people are wondering is like, where's the hair, right?
I love it. You look beautiful bald.
Oh, thank you. I know you're jealous because you're really hot over there and I don't have to worry about that.
Seriously hot over here?
It's about 8:20 p.m. and I don't have to worry about having a bad hair day here. Nothing.
So tell us more then.
When I was 20 years old, I was in a car accident and I have something called alopecia universalis, which is an autoimmune disorder where I have too many white blood cells that think hair is an infection and kills it off.
Wow.
So when I was 20, I did not think it was very cool. I went through the whole depression, and I know we were talking about before about, the recent celebrity suicides that were out there. Life can be really difficult. And I went through a really tragic, about a year of my dark, depressing time that I always tell people, where I hated everybody and hated everything. So I completely understand the depression. I understand the identity disorder when something happens to somebody and they don't know how to become a new person. So I started really focusing in on what can I do to make this really bad situation something a little bit better. So I started really delving into the mindset work, the cognitive neuroscience, the behavioral psychology, the quantum physics, because I wanted to learn how to, teach myself how to retrain my brain. So it started 31 years ago. This is how my journey began. And I started helping people. I did a lot of work with the Look Good, Feel Better program with American Cancer Society, because I figured I was really healthy, because people with alopecia have a heightened immune system. So we're super healthy, but people that have cancer are sick. So I thought that's the least I could do, is teach women how to wear wigs and makeup and fit in and look really good about themselves. So the more I did that, the more it really helped me adjust. And the more I spoke with these women, I had my undergrad at the time in psychology, but the more I spoke with them, the more I found my direction. I thought, I have to go back to school. I need to learn more how to be the best facilitator, the best therapist that I can be, so I can inspire, motivate, and I can direct other people like myself that are going through these, difficult issues. So I went to West Point Military Academy for my master's degree, and Verkoff School of Medicine in the Bronx for my Ph.D. work. And it was fantastic. I mean, I was like a sponge. The more information I could bring in, the more I would help people, the more I would help myself. It just became this secular motion of inspiring, helping, being inspired, being helped. And so I started doing the talk show circuit back about 25 years ago. I think I was on the Montel Williams show, Mike and Maddie, Jane Whitney show. I was in the National Enquirer. I mean, I was like in the Bold Woman. That's when Sinead O'Connor came out, right?
Yeah.
Sinead O'Connor. And I was like, yeah, they asked me, like, did you shave your head to be like Sinead? Or they asked me if I shaved my head to be like Montel. And I'm like, no, just lucky, I guess.
Wow.
No, I wasn't lucky. I didn't feel lucky at the time. I didn't feel lucky. But we'll just kind of fast forward a little bit. So I really was getting into doing more mindset work and being able to help other people. I started working with the alopecia support groups, and I've done that for about 20 years. I host Alopecia Universalis, which is one of the largest support groups for alopecia universalis.
Okay.
And my daughter, Jess, and I are the admins of the group, and so many women come in that are super depressed and they just don't know where they're going with their new identity of becoming a hairless individual, because I don't have any eyebrows or eyelashes. And I know you're jealous, Kim, because I never have to shave my legs or under my arms. So
you didn't have to tell me that part. Yeah, that is a nice.
I'm never going to get gray hair. I always say to people, oh, I'm so lucky. I never have to get gray hair. I don't worry about that, But yeah, so I mean, it was something that just really directed my life. And I started to look at things as teaching people how to turn their obstacles into opportunities. And so throughout my life, I was living in New York, and then we moved back. I had a divorce situation and moved back from New York where I was living, and I reside in Wisconsin. So I brought my daughter back to Wisconsin, and we joined Taekwondo because I wanted her to have that community spirit and kind of fit in. And I was tired of sweat, like ruining my wigs. I was working at the hospital at the time. And every time, I work out, I have to wash my wig. The wig would fall apart. I mean, it was just, so I started wearing panty liners. And so, And so what happens with us, with your mind, everything in the universe is vibrations, right? The trees, your cell phone, the microphone here, everything is vibrations. And what we need to do is you need to put up your little antennas, and you need to focus on that vibration. You need to put out what question you're asking the universe. You need to be specific to get a specific answer back. Like if you go to the bank and ask a teller for $50, she'd say, how much would you like to withdraw? And you'd say $50. And then she'll say, well, how do you want the denomination of that? And you say, oh, just give me 5 tens and we're good to go. And so that's the same thing that we need to do is direct our brains. So I started thinking about ways to be able to put a product under, to stop the sweat. So I thought paper towel. They say Bounty is most absorbent. So I thought, let's try the paper towel, right? So I tried the paper towels. And then I thought, what about panty liners? I mean, feminine hygiene products. They're supposed to be able to pull the, perspiration, everything away. So I started using them underneath my wigs, and I'm a triathlete. So I was wearing them under my bike helmets, my running caps, and the sweat, it was just so embarrassing. The people on my triathlon team were laughing at me because, I have these, these panty liners and my bike helmet, my running cap. And one day across the dojo at Taekwondo, my daughter yells, "Mom, your panty liner's hanging out. Like, out of the mouth of babes. She was 7 at the time. So I was like, oh my God, tucking it in, thinking to myself, there has to be something more dignified. So that very week, I had my little antennas up, right? I read in Time magazine about the guys and the gals in the military wearing panty liners underneath their tactical combat helmets.
Okay.
Let's have something more dignified, please. So that's when I started getting the idea. And then I read about another gentleman, the back of his horse trailer looked like a feminine hygiene accident from all the peel strips being removed. And he said, please let there be something more dignified. Hence, therefore, I got my first patent, and, you know, I did all the patent search. I got my first patent on my headliner product. And about 8 months later, American Idol was really big, right? About 11 years ago, Simon Cowell was really, really into doing American Idol. So he thought, hey, let's have a sister show called American Inventor. And so they sent out postcards, and I got one in the mail. I didn't even think it was real. But then I thought, well, we'll give it a try, right? We'll be positive. So I went down to the Navy Pier in like 8 inches of snow, auditioned, and to make a really long story short, there was about 100,000 people that auditioned in 10 different cities, and I made it all the way to the top 12. So I won over $150,000 worth of services to do focus groups and product testing and branding. Yeah, everything to bring our headliner product to market. And it's made of, our headliner product it's a thin disposable liner, and it's made of high-tech wickware that's similar to like Under Armour material. And so the back, this is our little medical version here. And this is our active version is blue. And you just remove the peel strip and you put it up underneath any type of headwear item, scarf or whatever, and it stops the sweat from rolling in your eyes. Nice. So it's a safety product. It traps the oil, salts, and odors. So it helps to reduce any of those, the salt stains or the oil stains. And then it's a safety product because it stops it from dripping in the eyes and it pulls it away from the head. So in the summertime, you want to stop sweat and you want to feel cooler. It's made of Under Armour, pulls it right away, or the Under Armour-like material. Okay. And so, so I invented the product and was a top finalist. And after I was done with the show, American Inventor called me, ABC's Lifetime TV. I'm getting confused. Lifetime TV's Health Corner said, can we do your story on alopecia? And I was more than humbled because I thought, hey, this is fantastic. I can help reach, people and show them once again, this is the way you turn an obstacle into an opportunity. And so they did a show, and then ABC, I was on ABC and NBC and Fox and CBS News, and I was in Entrepreneur magazine and then Forbes. And then I really started having like a huge following of individuals, and they kept asking me one question: how do you do it? I'm a single mom, right? Had a single mom at the time. And they're like, how do you do it? How do you stay so positive? And so I kept getting asked that question so many times. So our headline, we just celebrated our 10th year this year.
Congratulations.
So the #1 accessory for hard hats, bump caps, and respirators. We work with big companies like Grainger, Airgas, BSE, Fastenal, the really big safety companies like Toyota, and you name it. Anybody who wears a hard hat, they use our product. And then we have our wig version, which we're the only liner that's a disposable liner for wigs. So it's really, it's wonderful. So I've done tremendous amounts of interviews like this because I always love to share the story of my little bald head, because if there's somebody out there, I want to give them encouragement, and the more I started working with Ripley's Believe It or Not Radio for 2.5 years, I hosted a show called Weird Medical Maladies, because I myself have a weird medical malady. And I thought, excuse me, it would be great to give an education to people about differences so we could reduce prejudices. So I did that for about 2.5 years. But the question people keep asking is, how do you do it? So I thought, you know what? Now that my headlining company was doing really well, we had our first million, a couple of years ago, we were like really zipping, doing really well. I thought, I'm going to put together a program called Retrain Your Brain to Master It All. And I'm going to do a ton of research, because cognitive neuroscience every 8 years is obsolete. So I did more research to bring myself current. And, in the behavioral psychology, a lot of things are different, as well. So it took me about 6 to 9 months for all the research to get all the newest information put together. And I put together an 8-week intensive program. So the Retrained Arena Master It All program, it basically peels back any of those emotionally charged layers that an individual may have.
Okay.
So people get a lot of stress and anxiety, and that's because what they used to think before and what they're feeling and thinking right now, they're not congruent. And if they're not congruent, it causes stress and anxiety. So I peel back those emotionally charged layers, help them soothe their minds by actually understanding what it is that their current values, attitudes, beliefs are. And then I help them figure out what goals that they're trying to achieve. And I want them to achieve goals that are out of their reach. And then we change the neural sequencing in the brain. And it's by doing daily brain training, neural changing activities. And so I put them through an 8-week intensive. I have a workbook and modules that they can actually go through no matter who they are. I always tell people they can learn to work less, because if you're not stressed, an average entrepreneur wastes like 20 hours per month just being all stressed out and having anxiety about what they're going to do next. So if they stop that and they're completely focused, I have an entirely new way of setting goals, developing the why behind the goal, and the person can just like explode to an entirely new level. So my program actually helps take businesses into the 6 and 7 figures, people who never thought they could be there. It helps them have their thoughts become congruent from their past to their future. They can actually alter their genetics, because 50% of everything that we think, our thought patterns, our ways of communication, are from our genetics. So I teach them how to reprogram, retrain their brains physically to master it all. So it can be done. And I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
February 13th of last year, I think that everything happens for a reason in life. And I'm sure you agree, right?
I do agree. Yes.
For a reason. Okay. So I believe the reason I put together my Retrained Arena Master It All program was for one major reason. I started doing my research, and I was about 6 to 8 months in. We just got the membership site built for the program, and I was getting ready to launch it. And I went to the doctor, and I had a throat infection. And he said it was a virus. So 12 days later, I went back and I was still sick. And the nurse practitioner saw me and I said, I don't feel well. I had 102.7 fever. And I said, I'm a health psychologist. I know about my body. I need some antibiotics. And she refused to give them to me. So I came home. My fever went up to about 104. A couple days later, I kept calling her. I need antibiotics. She's like, come in. My doctor finally was off of vacation, said, come on in tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. I ended up in the hospital with a 106.1 fever, the highest fever they ever had at that particular hospital. I had a sinus infection, throat infection, pneumonia, influenza A, and then the strep A from the pneumonia seeped into my blood, and I was in septic shock.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So I had 104.5 fever for 3 days. I almost died my 3rd day. I was given antibiotics every hour for 8 days. I was awakened every hour for 8 days just to save my life. And you know what? At that very moment, I couldn't control anything. I didn't even turn television or the radio on for 6 days because I was so sick.
Wow.
But I could control my mind. So I thought of little Pac-Man going through my bloodstream, eating all the little bacteria. And when it would hit the antibiotics, it would like hyper mode. And so I would see myself from the top of my head down through my arms, my legs, and I would see, those Pac-Man eating all the white blood cells. And within 8 days, I had such a remarkable improvement that the infectious disease doctor said, I've never seen this before. Number one, you're the only person that wasn't intubated, and you were sicker than the majority of people I ever see. 62% of people die. 52% of people lose limbs or because, predominantly hands and legs, right?
Okay. Yep.
And I had nothing wrong with me. He couldn't believe it. He doesn't know if it was my alopecia. And I'm like, well, this is what I did. And then I was talking about my brain training, retraining, daily brain training, retraining activities that I was doing. And he said, they're writing up a paper on, my recovery and utilizing your mind.
Good.
So I think that the universe had me put together that program because it knew that I was going to be getting sick and I needed something to pull me through it. And so can you believe, excuse me, I made it through unscathed, and it took me over 6 or 7 months to recover because it's extremely difficult. But once again, I use my mind techniques to keep myself positive, keep myself happy. The nurses would fight over who could come to my room because I was always really happy and, I had like a Western exposure. We could see the sunset. And so I just kept myself super focused. So I prove to myself, my friends, my family, to everybody, anybody, and that has already done the program, that it works, because I'm living proof that it works. So isn't that cool? And now,
that is so cool.
Yeah. And now one of the greatest things is I get to work with pro skateboarder Beaver Fleming. This is my first time publicly coming out about this, but we just signed a contract, and I'm working with him on his mindset. He blew out his ACL and he tore the meniscus away from the bone, and he's been doing it all natural. He's a really positive, wonderful. He's 24, okay. And he's slated for the Olympics. I know he'll be going to the Olympics. He's awesome. Yeah. And so I'm working with him on a lot of his media and rebranding, because I've done this all before. And we've developed a campaign for him called SOAR with Beaver. I mean, what do pro skateboarders do? They soar in the air.
Yeah.
But SOAR stands for S, spreading, O, opioid, A, awareness, responsibility. Because if you've been talking about timely, the president has his the crisis next door because of the opioid crisis that we have in America. So Beaver Fleming did his recovery opioid free. And do you know that within 9 weeks, yesterday was the first day, the 12th, he was back on his board. He's back skateboarding. So we did this video, this SOAR with Beaver video that we're going to be releasing. It's going to go viral because he's just so uplifting and positive, and he's going to be spreading anti-opioid awareness, responsibility, doing his part.
Wow.
So yeah, we're getting a lot of sponsors for a lot of the talks that we're doing. And I'm going to be talking with him, helping people learn about, especially working with a lot of athletes and young people that look up to him, that, it's all about the mind. It's not about the drugs. I mean, I'm going to let you talk now.
Hey, I love everything you just shared with us. So, yeah. Thank you. It's funny too, as you're talking about your headliner, I'm like, well, how fitting that I literally was like sweating from my eyebrows.
Right? I want to put it through the and
I know, please give it to me. I need one now.
Oh my God. True. That's so true. But and we were talking previously before about the suicides that were happening today.
Yeah.
And the big thing, I was just interviewed with Discover Wisconsin, and
okay.
That show aired at.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I love that.
And I like to talk about simple living. And the big thing that I like to really talk about with people is, embrace your inner child. I mean, seriously, because life.
Seriously, yes.
Yes, you can't take it too seriously. My daughter and I we were doing some things for our headline. We were designing some things, and I put on the Polar Express, and I was like, you know what? We're the only, we love that hot chocolate song, in Polar Express,
okay.
Tom Hanks, and it was all about hot chocolate. And I said, this is something I'm going to talk about because we love the simple little things in life. And that's what makes life happy. Most people are so focused on the big extrinsic motivation, which is buying things, getting things, going places. And that's not what life is about. Life is about finding that intrinsic motivation from within, intrinsically understanding, and that whole mindfulness of being really able to appreciate what you have right in front of you right now, right today. We have pets, and I couldn't live without my pets because every day, we have our new Sphinx boy, which I wish I had him here. I could show him to you, but he's just amazing. And we just watch him, and, and just being able to pet an animal lowers your blood pressure. It's proven that all the studies prove it, and so just being able to enjoy going to the grocery store, enjoying little things, my tomato plants, my flowers in my garden. I love gardening and, doing the little things. And I think that all comes with happiness, that intrinsic, simple living. And I always tell people most people are driving a sports car in first gear. You put a car in first gear and you go to 60, what happens? And then you're going to like rev the engine and you're going to like blow the engine out. So what happens when you retrain your brain and you do these daily exercises, you learn to bring yourself from these gamma or these alpha brain waves down to the beta waves. And the beta is the nice calm, is putting your car in fourth gear. The wheels are spinning really quickly, but your mind is kind of slowing down. And that's what people need to realize, that they can do that. They're in charge of their brain. Everybody lets their brain control them. But they need to learn that they can control their brain. And our subconscious mind takes up 95% of our thought process. So everything that you're thinking right now, you nodded your head, that's a subconscious thought, right? You're twiddling your finger, that's subconscious. Only 5% of our conscious mind is what you and I are talking about right now, is 5%. So if you train your brain and you learn to focus and you learn to go through these different exercises, you can actually utilize more of your unconscious mind, so you can free up more of your 5% of your conscious mind. So it's incredibly possible for people to be able to do that. And like I said, Beaver Fleming is probably one of the greatest people in the world to be able to do this that I'm working with, because he can do these tricks like 720s in the air. Go to beaverfleming.com. You have to check him out. He can do these flips in the air, 720s. He lands things that no other skateboarders have ever landed. And like Tony Hawk himself calls him one of the most progressive skateboarders of the time. Wow. And I'm really honored. Yeah, he's a Christian, and so am I. And I'm really, really excited that he and I get to work together. So we're doing some amazing things, being able to help people out and spread the awareness. And yeah, it's definitely something from the universe. My little antennas came up, and anybody out there who wants to do anything, the biggest thing that you need to do is you need to know what you want to do. You need to have focus. Number one, you need to have focus. You need to write things down on a piece of paper. By writing things down, you're 40% more likely to be successful. And that's because it came from your hand, and those neurons fired up through your brain. They wire together, they fire together. You're more apt to be able to be successful by writing things down. So the first thing is knowing what you want to do and having that clarity, right? You have to have clarity, number one. The next thing is getting an action. You need to have an actionable plan put together. And then you need to know the why behind you're doing something. You need to know why you're doing it even before you have that action plan. So many people fail because they don't have, like entrepreneurs, the new Forbes study, 97% of entrepreneurs are failing. Wow. That means only 3% are successful. So why is that? Because they quit right when they're ready to have a breakthrough. They'll quit because they don't have an established why behind that. So if they would have that established why, they'd be so much more successful. And the other thing that a lot of people think is they think that they have to see something in order to believe it. And that's the most incorrect statement. In cognitive neuroscience, you have to believe it to see it. Woo, woo, woo.
Exactly. Yes. Woo, woo. I'm totally second that.
You have to believe it to see it. And I'll give you a quick example. A diver, an Olympic diver, the first thing they do, and I was a diver too, so I really relate to this, but you need to, they cognitively prime their brains. So it's called cognitive priming. So they see the dive in their minds, they close their minds, they see themselves doing the 3 twists, the tuck, pulling themselves in, hitting before they get the water. They're seeing it happen. They're believing it can happen before they see it happen. And a lot of the individuals that don't do this, that's once again why they fail. But when they put EKG and EEGs on these divers and they had them go through the dive just in their mind, they had the same physiological responses. Their muscles were actually, turning. Some of them were actually starting to perspire. It's the same with being afraid, right? If somebody comes behind you and they scare you, your pupils dilate, your hands start to perspire, your heart rate starts to. Same thing if you're watching a scary movie. It's the same thing. Why do you have those same physiological responses when you're watching a scary movie? Because your brain can't tell the difference between what's really happening, fiction and reality. So if you convince yourself that something already has happened, like you tell yourself, I'm successful. I mean, I'm going to hit 7 figures this year. I am going to do it. And you keep telling yourself over and over again, you write out your plan of how you're going to do this. And you keep telling yourself that you're priming and changing those cognitive neuro sequencing so it's actually going to happen, because remember I said about the little universe?
Yeah.
Everything in the universe is going to start to pull in. And all of a sudden it's going to be like me when I invented Headline It, right? Like all of a sudden I read in Time magazine, and then I read in an equestrian magazine, like all these little things just started putting in my lap. But it's only because I prime my brain for success. I prime my brain ahead of time. So people like Beaver Fleming, professional skateboarders, professional athletes, high performers, millionaires, this is what they do. Even if they don't know they do it, they do some type of daily brain training, neural changing activities, and they don't even know it, but that's what makes them successful. And so I've got all this put together, and anybody who has a desire, I always say action takers, not excuse makers. Anybody who has a desire can make a change. But Kim, that 85% of the population doesn't have the ability to make a change. They don't feel psychologically equipped. So 85% of the population can't make changes, which leaves only 15% of the population. So when I work with people, I say, well, out of 100 people, only 15 of you are really ready to make changes. So it's really important to understand that out of 100 people, only one person is actually going to write down an idea if they have an idea. And out of the 100 people that have an idea that wrote it down, only 6 people are going to actually do something about it. So that means 94% of the population does nothing. So isn't that amazing? So when we look at these things, I always tell people, don't be a statistic. Or be a statistic, be in that 3%, be in the 3% statistic. It's possible, but it all comes with having that proper mindset. Mindset, when we were kids, when I was a kid, mindset was called attitude. And the Army, they always say, be all you can be the best you can be. I mean, that is what life is about. It's all about attitude. You have the opportunity, Kim, you can laugh or you can cry. And I always tell people choose laughter because it causes less wrinkles. So, but it's a conscious choice. You have a conscious choice to be angry. You have a conscious choice to be upset. We can't control the way people act towards us, but we can control our reactions towards them. So think about that. Next time somebody upsets you, don't let your neural sequencing that as soon as somebody, especially like husband and wives or even best friends or whatever, or fathers and daughters or mothers and sons or mothers and whatever, when you have something set in your brain, somebody goes to attack you, you go to attack them back. And that's because of the neural sequencing. We have things in our brain called flight, fight, or freeze, right?
Right.
Our old mammalian brain is fight, flight, or freeze. And so it's so much easier to just flee because it's the easiest of the two. Standing up to fight takes a lot more energy, right? So people just flee. So it's really important that you understand that when you're talking with somebody and somebody says something to you, like my mom, I love my mom, she's my best friend, but sometimes she'll say something and it'll make me think back to my 50% genetics of when my old neural sequencing, it pulls from the back of your, mammalian brain. And all of a sudden, so you can see this is where your brain is. See right there.
It's perfect.
See. So, and then you pull from that brain and you need to stop. And so if you get into a situation where you really start to feel really anxious, and you start to feel anxious because somebody's pushing your buttons, stop. Take a breath. Yeah. Breathe in deeply and exhale, and do that 5 times. What that's going to do, it's going to atrophy that neural connection. If it's not getting any juice, if it can't wire, it's not going to fire. So if you perpetually during that situation stop, breathe, change that neural sequencing, and then you can actually change the way you react to that person. So stop and think. So the good old saying is, you stop and think before you speak. Yeah. That's true. You really should think before you act as well. So you can change the way you react to people. And if you take the deep breath, that's a perfect way for you to interrupt that neural flow, interrupt those sequencing, and you can actually react differently. And it's really amazing. So I give people these exercises. I'm like, okay, so find someone who kind of pushes your buttons. Now, next time, think about what they have to say to you and think of this. What they're saying, these things coming out of their mouth, they're words. They don't physically hurt you. You don't need to listen to them. I mean, if somebody's really whatever, get out of the situation. Don't be in that situation. People always say, I can't stand this person and I have to go over to their house. Like, why? I tell people, align yourself with people that you feel most comfortable, that empower you, because that's what life is all about, is being around people that like-minded, mission-driven individuals. That's who I like to be, like Kim O'Neill, like-minded, mission-driven, awesome person. And that's who I like to align myself with. Only people that make me feel good about me and that I think are doing their job to make other people feel good, because this world is about one thing, and that's helping each other out. Yeah. It's not about what we can do for ourselves. It's about what we can do for someone else, because I guarantee, do just one thing today for somebody else and just feel how it feels. Yes. It's amazing. So you get this positive burst of this oxytocin, which is that from the amygdala, it's this bonding hormone. It's that love hormone. So the more that you can do, the more oxytocin you produce, the more love you have, the more positive you have, and then your energy flows and you attract people. And the laws of the laws of the universe with the quantum physics, like the laws of attraction, like if you're going to put out really positive energy, you're going to attract positive energy. Yes. But if you literally put out negative energy, people can feel that. I mean, have you ever met somebody and instantly don't like them? It's because we talked about it. The law of the universe is it's all energy. And so if somebody has this negative energy about them, this is science. This is scientific. I'm not talking from a spiritual realm. I'm talking about science. Somebody has that negative energy around them, you will feel that negative energy and you will react accordingly to them, because you will feel that and have that standoffish. But there is a way, once again, to try to get them to change that. And that's the way you approach them, from a more positive. So try to overwhelm their negative with your positive. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, you know what I do? I say, I hope you have a very nice day. I'll see you later. And I leave. So take yourself out of that situation. So people don't realize that they can get out of those situations. You don't have to be in that situation. And I was in an abusive relationship, and I'm very open in my autobiography, My Bald is Beautiful, My Journey to Becoming. It's been said to be life's instruction manual. I'm very honored by that. But I tell people, from the time I lost my hair to looking in the mirror and jabbing a comb, saying, grow hair. It was like my hair was bleeding. And I talk about, I just felt so miserable. I just hated everybody and everything. My whole world was black. And when I talk to people, I talk about colors. I say, you have something you really don't like, and then everything's black. Really something you really like, something's white. And it's really important, like work may be black because you have some bad situations that are happening at work, and home life is white. It's very important that you keep those two colors separate, because people bring their junk from work home into their black, into their white, and then they get gray. And then they start living their lives in these world of gray. And so I really try to talk to people in think of colors, think of people. And if somebody's a black, a dark cloud, then, keep them their dark cloud, but then move on to your life back to the white, to the happy cloud, because you can do that. It's your choice. You cannot make somebody make you feel a certain way. You can only make yourself feel that way. So the only thing that's making them that you're allowing them to make you feel that way is because there's some type of connection, there's some type of neural connection in your brain that when you see that person, what happens is we have emotions, okay? And our emotions are these physical things from the amygdala, the pharmacy in our brain, and we have these emotions, and then we remember emotions. And you know what a remembered emotion is? It's called a feeling. So chemically, we start to have something called an emotion, and then we start to remember these emotions, and those emotions we remember are called feelings. So we see somebody, and instantly that feeling starts to emerge because it's chemical. It's just like, we'll say it reverse. You walk on the beach, think about it. Close your eyes. You're walking on the beach. You're rubbing your toes in the sand, and you feel the surf coming up and the cool wind and the breeze on your neck. And hopefully if you've been to the ocean, automatically your emotions start taking over and your feelings, and you can actually recall that situation, and you can recall it all the way, even though it's deep, deep, deep within your subconscious mind, you can recall it based on the emotions that you bring forward. So that's what happens with an individual too, because of those emotions and those feelings that you've memorized.
Yeah.
You can unmemorize them or unchange those neural sequencing in your brain when you meet them, but it's really hard. Do you ever meet somebody from high school that you didn't like? And then you see them 10 years later and you're like, I still don't like you. Like, we've all been that way. And I've even done that myself. And then I have to stop and think like, okay, that was like 25 years ago, 30 years ago. I'm not going to date myself, but it was a while ago. And yeah, well, you just said my daughter graduated from college.
Sorry.
She's starting grad school. I'm so proud, Mom. Boop, boop, boop. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Go Jess, go Jess.
Good for her.
But yeah, thanks. I'm a single mom, so I think.
And you.
Out of all my accomplishments, people always ask me, what's your best accomplishment? Because, I've been an inventor and an author and, company president, and I'm a psychologist. And I say my number one thing that I've ever done in my entire life is raise my daughter. Mm-hmm. And the second most important thing I've ever done in my life is I've never spanked my daughter. From my lips to God's ears, never spanked her.
Wow.
From
She's
day
lucky.
one. Yep. From day one. We actually have a page on Facebook called Stop Spanking, because spanking is basically a parental way of an adult temper tantrum. The parent can't control the child, so they have a temper tantrum and they use physical force, yet the child isn't allowed to have physical force. So what the child does is it mirrors the parent. So if the parent hits the child, I guarantee you the studies show 80 to 90% of those people that are in prison have hit, where their parents hit them. Now, I'm not saying, quote, I'm not saying if you hit your child's going to prison.
Right.
But I'm saying that of the population, a lot of parents have spank their kids. So I teach parents the same thing. Stop, take 6 deep breaths, think about what you're going to do. And even though that genetics, because probably if they spanked, they were spanked. So they need to change that genetics. They need to change those neural sequencing. So if your child is getting on your nerves and you're ready to tear your hair out, that's not what happened to me. My daughter, she's a good girl. But, stop. Take a deep breath. I mean, seriously, take 6 deep breaths and compose yourself, and then give your child a time out. Put them in the bathroom, put them in the whatever, somewhere safe, somewhere you can see them, somewhere, leave the door open. I mean, it shouldn't be this big scary, you don't need to scare them. Just show them that they just need to temporarily take a time out. And that time out, guess who it's for? Not the child. It's for you, parents. It's for you, because you need to gather yourself and learn to talk to your kid and stop talking at them. Start talking to them. Get on your knees. If you have little kids, get on your knees. And they're little. They already know that you're big. So when you're looking down at them, they already feel, they know that you're powerful. There's 3 types of parental structure. There's your authoritarian, there's authoritative, and permissive. So permissive parents let their kids do anything they want to do. And that is not good, because the kid is not looking for a friend. They're looking for a parent, although I'm best friends with my daughter. So they're authoritarian, don't let their kids get away with anything. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And this is my way or the highway, that kind of parent. And then there's authoritative understands. It's kind of like having empathy, right? It's like you understand how they feel, but it still really needs to go this way. But let's talk about it, and I'm going to explain to you how it needs to be, because this is the way it needs to be. And if you're going to need to take a time out with my daughter, she loved reading, so we'd read 5 books. And then if she wouldn't brush her teeth, I'm like, you're down to 4 books now. No, Mom, I want to read my 5 books. And I'm like, well, Then you need to get doing what you need to do. So some nights we'd read 4 books. Other nights we'd read 5 books. But it was that was strong enough, find something that they really enjoy doing. I mean, I don't even know how we're talking about parenting. I guess because it's like something I totally believe in. I want to be an advocate for every child out there that's spanked. And I want to plead and beg with the parents, please don't do that, because respect breeds respect. You respect your child. I guess I'm leading up to the pièce de résistance. My daughter has been my 22-year case study. I have treated her with respect, and look what I got back. I get respect back. We're best friends. People always comment on our relationship. We're going to be doing a podcast together, a mother-daughter podcast, because now she's just got accepted into an elite clinical psychology program. So she's going to be going for her Ph.D, of course, and she's just really bright. She's one of the leaders of her industry, of her
generation.
Her generation. Yeah. She writes for the Odyssey online, and she talks about things like disableism and, abstinence and not having to drink or smoke. Like, she's very vocal and she's different from me. I'm very personality. She's very personality, but she's the kind of person I always wanted to be. I always tell her, I always want to be like you, because when she talks, people listen, because, she doesn't say much.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there. Do you really think that people, but that doesn't mean you think people don't listen to you, right?
No, I don't think they don't listen to me, but I talk. Although I'm a professional listener, it's so backwards, because people always say, when you're home, like they always ask my daughter, does your mom talk a lot? And she's like, no. I'm like really the opposite, because I am a professional listener. So when we are together, Jodi, we are like really peaceful. Yeah.
Jodi, I haven't stopped you all this time because I just am loving listening to you. I mean, I'm about to say, okay, that was our show. And, I know you talked a lot, but you shared so much. And I'm like, I can't imagine an audience.
Have another show together, Kim.
Yeah, seriously.
Serious. There's a million things we can talk about. Are you kidding me? I have an opinion about everything.
No, I love it.
But they're positive.
Yes.
And that's what our podcast is going to be about, is being positive and teaching people how to be positive, how to be happy. So I know we have to wrap up, but tell me more.
Well, I'm trying to get creative in my head. Maybe some editing things I might do where it shows I at least talk a little bit more on my own show. But
yes.
I've loved everything you shared. And I think two things that I think are really key. And I'd love for you to elaborate on this too, but you've already mentioned too, awareness of where are my thoughts going or not going, and then choice. We have the choice. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people don't realize. You actually do have the choice to start to turn it around. And to me, because that can seem so incredibly hard to shift from a negative mindset to a more positive mindset, to the point where you can think, no, I don't have a choice. This is controlling me. And I can't turn it around, and that's all there is to it. And I say, if that's where you are, then that's okay. Start where you are by setting the intention. Okay, you know what? I'm choosing that, yes, I'm going to start to shift in that direction. It might take a while, but that's how powerful we are. Just by setting the intention, then you can start to gather more awareness, and then start to, it just happened like 10 minutes ago. Oh, okay. And then next time it happens, you go, I think that was maybe 5 minutes ago that happened. You're getting better, because now I'm speaking from my experience,
Sure.
as the celebrity suicides came out just last week. All of a sudden, I gained deeper clarity on my why. I feel like I have a few whys of why I do what I do, but one of my whys is because as a kid, I had struggled with negative self-talk. And I remember back then, struggling with it so much and consciously making the decision that, okay, I want to turn this around, but realizing I don't even know when I'm thinking negative thoughts. It was just on autopilot in the back of my head. And
right.
I had to start with going, okay, I guess I need to figure out, just become aware of when it's even happening. And I remember times where, okay, it was 30 minutes. I would realize a huge chunk of time had passed, but all of a sudden something would click in my brain and I'd say, oh, that started about a next big cycle of it or so, that was 30 minutes ago. And okay, at least now I know, like it started a while back and now I can start to sort of turn it around. And then at that time, started to shorten. Oh, that was like 10 minutes ago. Oh, that was 5 minutes ago. Oh, it just happened. It just happened. Okay, what can I start to tell myself differently? And it was challenging because, you know, as you were talking about too, where our, what's that phrase? Where attention goes, energy flows, right? So when you've got that momentum going of this negative self-talk, and it's just, you're so used to it, there's that momentum builds up, it can seem like you can't slow it down, but you can, and just start with baby steps. And I love you have a whole program that helps people with this kind of thing. So
I love what you said, baby steps. I always tell people, it doesn't matter how many steps you take. You know what matters is that you're going in the right direction.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So anyway, Jodi, I love you. I'm so glad you're on this show. Everything you shared already. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Me too. The feeling we're part of the Mutual Admiration Club. I love it.
Well, okay. So I feel like this next question is obvious because you've already shared so much, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. The show is called Every Day is a New Day. And I would love to hear, what are your thoughts on what does every day is a new day mean to you?
Every day is a new day to me is really about mindfulness. And I encourage people to go on your phone, download a mindful app, and every 20, 30 minutes, remind yourself to yawn. Oh, the yawning reduces stress. It's proven to put you and ground you a little bit more. Make sure that you deep breathe every day. If you remind yourself how wonderful of what you're doing, just do one good thing every day. And that allows you to understand why we're here. I mean, why are we even on this planet? We're these little people living in these little boxes, you know, talking on these little phones to people. You know, if you really look at the big picture of things, you know, this universe is so great, so grand, and every day can be spectacular. I always tell people they don't have to live in their loops of doom. They can actually design their lives instead of living by default. So I think that every day people, they need to be mindful of the little things that really make them happy, because the little things snowball into bigger things and every day becomes even a better day. So I think that's what that means to me.
Thank you for sharing that.
You bet.
Along the lines of mindset and choice, I had someone say, well, I saw someone's comment on Facebook the other day, and it was in one of these threads of, you know, the conversation about suicide and the recent ones that happened. And someone said, you don't have to be mentally ill in order to start to have suicidal thoughts. And to me, I was like, thank you. Because I think people start to think one indicates the other. And do you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, mental illness and depression. I mean, there's clinically depressed people that are severely depressed because of, you know, chemicals in their brain or whatever. But an average person, I mean, the amygdala releases so much cortisol, and the cortisol is that stress hormone, right? And it's the cortisol that we can't sleep at night, the cortisol that makes us, you know, have obesity. And so that cortisol also leads to depression because the people aren't in their right mind. They're not getting enough sleep, you know, they're not resting, and they're just so stressed out. So that often leads to feelings of despair and overwhelm. And all of those feelings allow somebody to feel something called depression, which is when their mood feels like it's lower than their mood should be, just because there's so much that they're doing. And now today, with all this tech and answering your emails like 50 times a day and spending, you know, hundreds of hours a week, you know, in front of your computer and on your, it can lead, you know, to different kinds of depression. So it doesn't mean that you're mentally ill. It just means that you're human. So anybody that has any type of depression, you're human. And if you don't have depression, then I probably would think you were having some mental illness, because then you'd be in a world of mania. So that's a whole different story. So it's perfectly normal to show your emotions. And I always encourage people to show your emotion, because if you don't show your emotion, then it becomes repressed, and then it can come out in anger or depression. And if you don't have that, then you're not human. So, but we're human, so it's perfectly normal.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I was, yeah, as I heard that comment, to me, just the concept of, it's not so much about, well, this is where I'm at, and I just want to share this because this resonates with me in case it resonates with anybody else, that it's not so much about a mental diagnosis as it is about a mental health practice.
There you go. There you go. And we do need to practice health and the health of our mental faculties. So that's why I teach people the daily brain training, neural changing activities. So very, very important.
Yeah. Just like anything else, right? Like use it or lose it. If you're not exercising your muscles, well, then you start to get a little flabby, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
exactly.
Oh, okay.
And you can actually atrophy, you want to actually atrophy those parts of your brain that cause negativity. And people are more negative and depressed than they are positive. You know why? Because it's easier. Negativity is a baseline emotion. So it's easier to become negative. It's easier to be really depressed because it's a baseline emotion, but to become positive and happy, it takes more energy. So people just need to apply themselves and put a little bit more energy, and they can be happy. They don't have to be joyful and you know, all the time, but that's why most people have that flatter affect, because it's easier.
Well, thank you for sharing that. For those who can see us on video right now, yeah, I'm just going to admit, I got to work on my lighting. That's for sure. I'm
a lighting person, so it's not.
Gosh, goodness. Okay.
My puppy's jumping up on me. I was going to show you here.
Oh, show me. Yes, yes.
My puppy here.
Oh,
he was abused.
Oh.
And yeah, we just got him about a year ago. He was at the puppy shelter. So this is my plea for people. Go to the shelters and get puppies. Like Teddy. Teddy was abused, and now he has a forever home, and he's like the best little guy in the world.
He's adorable. Is he a mutt? Is he a breed?
No, he's a Shih Tzu. He's a part Shih Tzu and part Bichon.
Oh, and I love that.
Yeah, and I love to trim him because it's so hot for the summer, so I keep him shaved. I shave him like every 2 weeks just to keep him.
Aw, so sweet.
Know, right, Ted? So Ted's a good guy.
Ted, cute. Oh my goodness. Well, Jodi, I would absolutely love to have you back on the show.
Oh, we'd love to be here. And I'll bring my bald cat next time. I'll show you I have one of many bald cats.
Okay. Oh, and that reminds me, I wanted to ask you, do your Headline It liners, do they work under, say, like a standard ball cap?
Yes, baseball caps, any type of hard hat, bump cap, respirator, motorcycle helmets, bike helmets, gardening, anything. They work under any type of headwear item, and they last for 10 to 14 days. So just remove the peel strip, stick it in there, and you don't have to worry about it for 10 to 14 days.
Oh my goodness.
Toss them in the garbage when you're done.
Okay. And so for a person who's, so I'm trying to think. I think you said they're used for safety a lot. Can people find them at everyday stores? Where can they find these?
They pretty much can, or they can just go to headlineit.com.
Oh, excellent.
Headlineit.com is our website, right? But we're sold in 22 different countries. So we're all around the world. Yeah.
Congratulations.
You can find them a lot of places are more of a specialty item, like within the safety industrial, there's sporting goods, English writing supply, a lot of equestrians.
Okay.
Our liner was used in the 2008 Olympics by Sheila Taormina, who took 5th in the modern pentathlete. And Brett Pearberry is another one who uses our product. He's from Australia, one of the equestrians. And so, and now, like I said, we're working with Beaver Fleming. So,
Very cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. And for anybody who's out there who wants to think about their mind and think about, if their negative internal beliefs, if you have a lot of anxiety, or you want to figure out like how to get those thoughts from the past and make them congruent with your thoughts from the present to release a lot of that overwhelm. I have a free training that I put together. So anybody out there can go to retrainyourbrain.today. So not .com, retrainyourbrain.today. And they can get a free 45-minute training, and it comes with a slew of wonderful positive emails that follow that give them a little bit of education. And if they're comfortable and they want to really retrain their brain to master it all, they can always set up a free consultation with me, and we can talk if the program is right, for them or not.
Awesome. And how can people find out more about you or connect with you beyond that, if they wanted to just follow you on social media or something?
Sure. You can go to my website. It's jodipliszka.com. So jodipliszka.com. So go to jodipliszka.com, and there's wonderful clips from American Inventor, Lifetime TV, a whole bunch of articles, and really good information that'll help people out about mind control and retraining their brains. So check it out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that wraps up our show. As you can see, gosh, there was so much value in this, and I'm just so grateful Jodi was here. Please leave me a note and let me know how you enjoyed this interview as well and what you're taking away. You can always find out more about me, the coaching work that I do, about future shows that I do by going to KimO'NeillCoaching.com, or find me on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching, and O'Neill is Oneill. And again, just remember that every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. There's always hope. And with that, I love it. Okay. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Thank you for being with us today.
Bye. Thanks for having us. Bye, Kim.
Bye.
I see the button. It's recording.
Okay. We've done so much pre-talk. I don't know. Okay.